Yaz in North Finchley. Hello, Yaz. Is
hello.
it Yaz? Sorry.
Yes, it is. Yes, go ahead, Yaz. You're through to Mr. Clegg. Go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, as a young person, because I'm 17 at the moment.
Right.
I just wanted to ask if you think that sex education guidance, which hasn't been rewritten in 13 years, should be updated to reflect the digital era we now live in.
Well, I've got very strong views on this, and it's been a bit of a subject of debate within government. Can I just ask, Yaz, though, why you're 17? Why are you calling about? Has something happened that? I mean, again, I don't want to pry. What's the reasons behind your concern?
Let me ask a question. What's if you don't, and if this is too much, just say, what sort of level of sexual education are you having at the moment, if you don't mind my asking, Yaz?
I've just been through it in school, and it's all. It's quite old-fashioned. There's nothing really about sort of the social side. It's very biological. Mm-hmm. And we were watching actually VHS videos in our classroom, so it's very outdated. And I think because it hasn't been updated since 2000, that we didn't really have most social media platforms then, Facebook, Twitter. There wasn't the huge explosion of internet pornography that there is now. And I think that we need to take that into consideration and sort of
just on that point. That's slightly actually what I was asking, because I've heard this from quite a lot of teenagers and young men and women, that this explosion in internet pornography, and particularly the pressure or the sort of indirect pressure it seems to bring to bear on young women, is a new problem, which clearly wasn't there when the guidance was last written in 2000. I mean, I'll try and provide an answer, but I'm just quite interested, is that something which you and your friends, have you found that a particular issue?
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of pressure on people at my school. There was pressure on me. There's pressure on sort of all young people to sort of act out what they see online. Even if they haven't seen it yet, there's sort of this idea that you have to conform to what goes on in porn.
Yeah. Well, look, my answer is that my own view is that, yes, the guidance should be updated, of course, basically for the reasons you set out. The last time the guidance was changed was 13 years ago, and the world is a very different place now. And in many respects, it's a more liberating place, not least because of the internet. It's also a more menacing place, I think, particularly, but not only for young girls. The second problem is, of course, that, I mean, I start from the basic premise that I suspect all parents want their teenage sons and daughters to be not just given, if you like, the biological facts of life, but also to be given some sex and relationship guidance. And I think it doesn't matter what school they go to, that should be made available to them. At the moment, there are lots of schools, academies, free schools and so on, who don't need to follow the guidelines, even the outdated ones. So that's where I stand. But I'll be open with you. This is not shared across government. I haven't been able to persuade Michael Gove and the Conservatives to move all the way on this. They've moved some of the way. So that, for instance, there is now going to be a sort of guidance in the national curriculum on IT classes, which has some bearing on this, and the national curriculum, even though that doesn't need to be taught by all schools, does sort of at least raise the expectations that schools should teach this. And Ofsted, very usefully, will be showing kind of what's the best practice in all of this. So we've made some progress over the last 2 or 3 years.
Why can't you shift them further, Mr. Clegg?
Well, it's just one of the things that in government you debate. And, what I find every day of my working life is there are some arguments where you dig your heels in and you absolutely persist until you win, and there are others where you basically compromise. And we've compromised a bit on this, but I'm not going to hide from Yaz, because I actually think this is something which really, really matters to teenage children. And
why doesn't Mr. Cameron and Mr. Gove get it?
Well, ask them. I mean, I've spoken to Michael, and he's a perfectly intelligent bloke. I think he's got a very well expressed and articulate view that schools shouldn't be burdened with too many directives, if you like, from central government. And in general terms, of course I support, particularly after the excessive micromanagement by previous Labour governments of the way that schools worked, his wish to liberate teachers and head teachers to do what they judge is best for their children. But I just happen to think in this instance, given how menacing this is, particularly for young girls, my own view is this is an area where actually we do need to be, we need to both update the guidance, which was Yaz's point, because it hasn't been updated since 2000, and really kind of raise the expectation that all schools do this properly in the classroom.
Yes, just before I let you go, and if this is indelicate, please tell me, what did you learn from your sex education classes?
Just about sort of the scientific side of it. I feel like I've really been let down when it comes to actual guidance on like relationships.
Okay.
That's exactly. So you've been given the facts of life, and not so. And you haven't been. Can I just one final question? Yes. Sorry, Nick and I asking you more questions than we perhaps should. But is it? I'm assuming for what's important for you and for other 16, 17-year-olds is to be able to ask quite sort of difficult questions to people who might be able to help in a kind of secure environment. And it's as much it's as much as anything else about you talking about the pressures that you've talked about earlier, for instance, about internet pornography, as it is about someone putting up a diagram, a diagram on the whiteboard saying these are the sort of facts of life. That's the sort of territory we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of young people, I know that I'd feel quite uncomfortable talking to my parents about this. I wouldn't really be able to talk to my peers about it because obviously there's that pressure there, and you sort of don't want to come out of the conformity and speak out against internet porn with other young people. It's quite difficult. So we really need sort of people who can guide us and who we do feel comfortable going to see, sort of, even if it's just quietly without anyone else there, just to go and see them one-to-one and have a bit of a discussion about how we feel.